What's up guys, my name is Ace, and today we're going to be talking skill-based matchmaking in Modern Warfare. And this isn't just another one of those I feel that this is there sorts of videos. Drift0r and I have both been spending time independently collecting data over the past weekend on skill-based matchmaking, testing several accounts and several different variables, and we thought it would be best to pool our data together to see if there is strong skill-based matchmaking in Modern Warfare. Now, the first thing to mention is we aren't testing to see if skill-based matchmaking exists, because skill-based matchmaking has always existed in some capacity in every Call of Duty game. It's no secret that you can kill yourself over and over and over hundreds of times and end up in a protected bracket of players that are either so new to first-person shooters that they barely know how to move around the map, or perhaps they're disabled gamers. So that's not the question I'm trying to answer with this testing. Instead, I'm trying to answer the question, is there strong skill-based matchmaking outside of that protected bracket? So to do this testing, Drift0r and I both had the same approach. We did discuss this a little bit beforehand. So we were doing the same things, but we did collect our data independently. But we took an account that would be considered below average stats-wise. Then we'd take an account that was right around the average point, maybe a little bit above average. And then finally, we would take an account that would be considered well above average when looking at all of the stats. Then with each of those accounts, we started hopping into matches and collecting the data. Now, the data we collected is the names of every person in the lobbies, as well as the actual ping to the game's host. Now, we weren't looking at the in-game ping values because those are all screwed up in Modern Warfare. They don't really mean anything. Instead, we use NetDuma routers to directly ping the host and get accurate results. Now, if you're interested in seeing our raw data, of course, I will leave a link to the spreadsheet in the description down below. But first up, let's have a look at connection quality. Does the connection quality change depending on the skill level of your account? It turns out, based on our data, no. We couldn't see any correlation whatsoever there. There was very little variance when it comes to connection on either of our ends, although I will say Drift0r has a much lower ping to the servers than I can get here in Canada. But as far as we could tell, at least playing at peak times during the weekends, the skill level of your account has no impact on your connection quality to the host. Now, unfortunately, I really wanted to test to see if you would get a wider spread geographically of players, but unfortunately, with the NetDumas currently, we don't have access to that information. So you can't see where the other people in your lobby are located, because I think that would have been interesting to see that if you were on a different skill account, perhaps you would see a wider spread geographically, because that can affect your connection experience in the game. However, all we were able to test is our ping to the host, and there was no strong correlation there. Also, just a quick note when it comes to connections, I'm not saying the connections are perfect, I'm just saying there's no correlation between connections and skill level based on our findings. I can tell you right now, I have had a horrible connection experience, primarily when I'm in Norway. It's not as bad when I'm here in Canada. But yeah, I just wanted to address that before continuing on with the video. So that covers it for connections, but now let's move into the actual stats to see if there really is strong skill-based matchmaking outside of that protected bracket. So the stats that we have publicly visible that we can actually see for not only ourselves but other random players is overall kill-death ratio, win-loss ratio, score per minute, and we can also look at the recent performance of players. And my suspicion going into this was that your recent performance is really what's impacting some sort of a skill-based matchmaking system. It seems like when you have several games where you do really well, you just know that it's going to put you into extremely difficult lobbies, and then you're going to do really bad, and then once you do bad for a while, you get into good games again. That's at least been the feeling that's commonly expressed within the community. So to put that to the test, I decided to collect the kill-death ratios from the past 5 games for every player that I was able to get data on within our lobbies. Now, if you do go and look at the chart, you'll notice that I was also collecting the score per minute data over the past 5 games, but I realized partway through that score per minute can't really be used as a reliable value in this, simply because it varies way too widely depending on the game mode that the player is playing. So for somebody playing Search and Destroy, a 100 score per minute is a really good score per minute, but for a domination player, 100 score per minute is terribly low. So if you're trying to average all of that out, it just doesn't make any sense. So I just kind of threw the whole score per minute thing out the window. It would have been nice to see game mode specific score per minute, but unfortunately, there's no way to see that data for other random players. So having a look at the correlations for kill-death ratio, we're talking global lifetime kill-death ratio for the entire life cycle of the game. It turns out the correlation here isn't strong by any means. We got a correlation coefficient of just 0.43, which is very weak. You might see a very slight trend here or there, but not enough to suggest strict skill-based matchmaking by any means. As for win-loss ratio, there was an even weaker correlation at just 0.2, So again, this just doesn't suggest strict skill-based matchmaking based on global stats. The stat that I was most interested in, though, with this test was our average kill-death ratio over the past 5 matches. And it turns out with this, we got a correlation coefficient of 0.83, which is a fairly strong correlation. What this means is the data seems to suggest that there is relatively strict skill-based matchmaking based on your recent performance. Now, it's very likely that there's a lot more that goes into this than just your kill-death ratio in your recent performance. It's more likely that there's a hidden elo score that takes into account your kill-death ratio, your score per minute based on the game mode that you're playing, so it actually means something, as well as who you've been playing against and what their elo score is and what your performance has been relative to them and their elo score. But of course, we don't have access to any of that data. The best data that we have access to that makes sense across various game modes is going to be kill-death ratio. And like I said, we're seeing a fairly strong correlation here. So based on this data, it does look like there is relatively strict skill-based matchmaking in Modern Warfare, but it might not be what you thought it was. It doesn't look like it's having any impact on connections, or at least the data doesn't show any impact on connection experiences. And also, your global stats seem to be pretty much irrelevant here. It really seems to just hone in on your recent performance in-game, and that actually seems to match many people's experiences with this game. So that's the data and the science part of this video, but now it's time for me to share my opinion. And this is always a very controversial topic. There are people that have very strong views on both sides of this matter. Personally, I am against strict skill-based matchmaking in public matches within Call of Duty. Now, I do want to clarify that I am all for a protected bracket for brand new players so they can get a feel for the game and hopefully get hooked on the game, because I want the game to succeed in that sense. But aside from that protected bracket, I am against strict skill-based matchmaking in public matches. And there are many reasons for this, so let's just start going through them, and I do want to be really thorough with this video because I'm hoping I don't have to continue making videos on this and continue beating a dead horse after this video is done. So the first reason that I'm against strict skill-based matchmaking in public matches is quite simply, how do you track your improvement if the game is doing everything behind the scenes? There is no displayed skill ranking, and as it is right now, as you get better and you start improving at the game picks up on that and puts you into harder lobbies. So now your performance will drop against those harder opponents. And with everything being hidden, now you're starting to wonder, like, did I suddenly just get worse at the game? I thought I was getting better. Now I suck at the game again. So this just leads to a lot of confusion and inconsistency, and also very little incentive to want to improve at the game. Why would you want to get any better at the game when chances are you're just going to end up against more difficult players without the game even telling you that and without any sort of a skill rank to grind for? Now, if they had an elo rank and actually displayed it for people, this issue of mine would completely go away, because then at least I'd have something to grind for and some reason to improve at the game. This brings me to the next reason that I'm against any sort of strict skill-based matchmaking in pubs. Call of Duty public matches are a casual environment. The maps, the modes, and the rule sets are not suited to a competitive environment. And this is why the pros are playing effectively a completely different game with a different rule sets. They've got a bunch of things banned. They only play on a certain set of maps with a certain set of modes. That's because the game that they're playing is the most competitive version of this game. Public matches have casual rule sets, and the skill gap is much, much lower than a competitive environment would be. Pre-launch, there's even that famous clip from the interview that Joe Seacott had with Game Informer, where he specifically talked about one of the goals of this game being to make things easier for newer players to get into the game. They've specifically taken measures to reduce the skill gap in public matches for Modern Warfare, and if you're going to do that, strict skill-based matchmaking doesn't make sense because you're not playing in a competitive environment. So for all the people saying, well, other games have skill-based matchmaking in their casual playlists, like Overwatch, or CSGO, or Rainbow Six Siege, when you look at those games and compare the casual rule set to the professional rule set, there's not much, if any, deviation because those games are designed to be competitive. Call of Duty public matches are casual experiences, and this brings me to kind of the next point that fits in with this. One of the biggest things that launched the success of this franchise was the introduction of kill streaks. Kill streaks are our in-game rewards. That's what we're shooting for when we're in a match. We're trying to earn our kill streaks, and then our kill streaks get kills, and it's rewarding, and there's dopamine, and it's all exciting and stuff to do that. So the incentive to improve at Call of Duty over the years has always been so you can earn those kill streaks more efficiently and more consistently. You can't do that with strict skill-based matchmaking, because as you get better, you just get more difficult opponents. So the entire reward system is just kept out of your reach, it seems, consistently, which completely contradicts the design philosophy around the rewards in this franchise. The next thing that I really don't like about strict skill-based matchmaking in public matches is playing with friends that are at a different skill level to you will create a bad experience for somebody, if not everybody involved. So just as an example here, when I play with my friend Rockhead, he's actually one of the accounts I used for the study that I did as my average account. When he plays alone, he's matched up against people that are of a similar skill level to him, and that might sound great. However, anytime we party up and he plays with me, he has a horrible time playing. I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, but he often just gets completely annihilated in my lobbies, and he just hates the game at those moments. He doesn't enjoy himself while playing with me, because he's now suddenly playing in lobbies that are filled with higher skilled players. This has never really been a serious issue in the past with Call of Duty, but suddenly this year, it absolutely is. But this brings us to the next thing I don't like about skill-based matchmaking in public matches, a simple lack of variety if you find yourself in higher skilled lobbies. When you're on a high skill account playing against other high skill players, there is very little variety in how people play and very few viable options for you to keep up with the other people in the lobby. So if you end up in a high skill bracket game and you want to go for pistol camos, good luck getting any kills at all in that lobby. You are going to have an absolutely horrible experience going for those camos, whereas in the past with Call of Duty, with mixed lobbies, sure, you'd struggle a little bit going for those camos, but if you were a skilled player, you could push through that because you've worked hard to build your skills up so that you can use strange setups and succeed. This goes back to the whole design philosophy of public matches with Call of Duty as well. The entire grind, especially this year, is focused on unlocking weapon camos and messing around using all of the different guns in the game. And with strict skill-based matchmaking, it's just not viable to be using a wide range of things if you're in a higher skill bracket against other highly skilled players. Now, for a lot of the average to below average players out there, you may not have experienced this, because what I've found playing on the average account or the below average account is people in those lobbies are moving around and using a wide variety of weapons and tactics, and it's a really good mix. Every match feels different, everybody's doing different things, and that was something I found really refreshing while doing this testing. When it comes to strict skill-based matchmaking, the higher you go in the skill brackets, the less room there is for error, and therefore you basically have to fall into certain playstyles and certain metas if you just want to keep up with everything that's going on around you. On the same point of variety, I did want to address something because the common counterpoint for people that are pro strict skill-based matchmaking in public matches is you just want to pub stomp all the time. And this isn't true at all. Do I want to pub stomp sometimes? Absolutely I do. This is Call of Duty, where the reward system is kill streaks, like I explained earlier. There's a nuke in the game that you can shoot for if you're a highly skilled player. Of course I want a shot at getting a nuke every now and then. But do I want that every single game? Of course not. That would get boring really quick. I want mixed lobbies, and without strict skill-based matchmaking, most lobbies will consist of mainly average players, and then there will be a couple lower skilled players and a couple higher skilled players mixed in there, on average. That's just how statistics work. So even if skill-based matchmaking was removed from public matches, it's not like I would be pub stomping every single game. It would be a wide range of experiences. Sometimes I'd be pub stomping, other times I'd just have average games, and then there's the other times where you end up in lobbies against really difficult people. There's good variety there, and that's what I'm looking for in Call of Duty. That's something I've always loved about Call of Duty. Another common counterpoint is, what about those lesser skilled players? You just want to have fun at their expense? My answer to that is, I've been there too. We've all been there. And guess what I did in those lobbies? I got destroyed at first. I was watching the really good players dropping kill streaks consistently and getting a lot of kills and very few deaths at the end of the game. And I wanted to become like one of those players, so I worked hard to improve to become one of those. I had a lot of incentive to want to improve. And honestly, a good portion of you guys watching this video, if you aren't new to my channel, you're probably here because you want to understand the game better so you can improve at the game. With strict skill-based matchmaking, I don't even recommend trying to get better at the game. It's that ridiculous. You're just going to get a worse experience as you get better with nothing to show for it. Now, if there was no strict skill-based matchmaking and you still are struggling, there are plenty of resources to help you improve, like YouTube videos. Also, you can go into custom games against bots and you can practice against those bots until you're confident to challenge the average player that you will tend to run into in public matches. I want lesser skilled players to have an incentive to improve. I want them to want to improve so that they'll come watch my YouTube videos and I can help them improve. That's what I'm here for. And honestly, I've been finding it pretty disheartening this year. You might have noticed that most of my videos lately have just been breakdown videos. I haven't really been providing any gameplay tips. And the reason behind this is I honestly don't feel it's in your best interest to get significantly better at this game. And that just kind of makes me sad. But that's a little bit of a tangent. Overall, I am against strict skill-based matchmaking in public matches in COD, and you might have noticed most of the gameplay on my channel lately has been from Ground War. And the simple reason for this is, as far as I can tell, there is no strict skill-based matchmaking in Ground War, so it's the closest thing to the traditional Call of Duty experience, where there's a ton of variety. I can run around using different sorts of setups and not be severely punished for that, and there's a wide variety of different playstyles available at any given time. Unfortunately, I just don't get that same experience when I play 6v6 or 10v10, which is the traditional Call of Duty experience that I've fallen in love with for the past 13 or 14 years of me playing Call of Duty multiplayer. So if any of the devs are still sticking around watching this video, I really hope you consider toning down skill-based matchmaking in this game. I want that traditional Call of Duty experience, and I'm just not getting it with Modern Warfare. A nice thing on top of that would also be bring the ranked playlist in and have proper skill-based matchmaking in there where you can see your ranks and you have something to work towards when you're trying to improve at the game. That would be a great addition alongside a reduction to the skill-based matchmaking in regular public matches. But with that, we're going to wrap up today's video, and of course, I'd like to hear from you guys. First off, what did you guys think about the data and the results that we got? And second, what's your opinion on strict skill-based matchmaking in Call of Duty public matches? Do you think it should be there, or do you think it shouldn't be there? Just let me know those thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.